tonight. Have members of, got several communities represented tonight, so it's pretty exciting to have some outsiders in to hear a great message this afternoon or this evening. But we do have, this is a special board meeting for us, so I'm going to have Amanda get us started a bit, maybe in a second or two. But one thing we had to do is to appoint, we have Mr. Geese be the clerk, so if we could have a motion for the clerk, and then we can get that going.
Okay, so I guess I would move that Mr. Geeson would be tonight's clerk in replacement of Robin.
Second words. I'll second.
Okay, everyone in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Carried, 5-0.
Expect to read it.
Don't make us nervous. No. Mr. Geeson making me nervous already. All right, so here's what we got. This was Kansans Can was the theme for the evening. I'm talking about part of our own redesign teams that have been working through some different projects and different ideas. So to start with, well, I'm going to have the building level teams come up and share briefly kind of what they had been working on this last year, 2 years even, maybe more than that. And then after that, we'we'll have Dr. Watson present and share some thoughts from the state level. So who wants to go first from a building level? We didn't really organize. There we go. Come on up here. So part of this is for the crowd to know what we've been working on as well. So
Rest of them are here.
just briefly, just talking points. What would be the 2 or 3 major things you've been working on this year with your redesign and what you want to implement next fall?
We're calling it Reading Communities. We just want to build more of a love of reading and learning through giving them more choice in the reading that they're doing and also giving them more support without spreading the teacher too thin by creating communities that will go across grade levels. That's kind of a nutshell.
So we'd have a kindergartner going up to a first or second grade classroom, or a third grader going to a second grade classroom to get the instruction they need in reading. Each grade level will have their own specific topic that they will work on.
So in each of the ideas, there's 4 guiding principles that Dr. Watson is in his presentation. So keep an eye on those 4 guiding principles because they tie back into these ideas as well.
And the fun way that, like the 3 through 5 are working more on reading novels and things and choosing, and then working in a little literary club. And then hopefully we'll tie in, we'll have community members that read the same book with us, and maybe do a little bit of communicating with either book, a blog or something, and then also have community people that would come in if there's a topic we've learned about in this book that would then support the learning we might get from that book. That's how we'll tie in community.
And also continue our check-in, check-out that we meet with. Every adult has a student they meet with in the morning or after school, just as a way to build a relationship. If you can build that relationship, it's going to get them to school, it's going to give better behavior in the classroom, and that has worked pretty well so far, what we've done. So we are going to continue that and expand that maybe. Thank you, Kathy.
Next up, Anthony Elementary is going to share briefly there.
It's hard to
Key
get people
ideas.
here today because we just started summer break and so everybody's gone. So luckily Dana came with me to help talk. At Anthony Elementary, we have implemented family time. And this is a piece where we get together for about 20 minutes every Monday, start the week on a positive note. The families were randomly chosen. We get together and just do non-academic activities. So the point is just to have a mixture of grade level students come together for a 20-minute fun time. How was your weekend? Let's have a great week. Maybe it's just to have breakfast or play a game, just to start the week off on a positive note. We've implemented that this year and definitely have found a couple of things that we'll be able to tweak to make that better for next year and a little bit more powerful. So that's kind of the beauty of once we get something started, then that gives us the chance to see what we need to do to make it better. So.
The other thing that we've done to help with streamlining things in our building, during our MTSS time, which is the multi-tiered design, where we have our kids that are doing things at benchmark level, strategic level, and intensive levels, In second grade, we decided to do them as a prototype, and we wanted to streamline things through special education, through Title I, and through our core, when they're with their regular ed teacher. So through that, we're able to use all of those entities together to better service those students during that time. And I think our prototype went pretty well. There's some other prototypes that we're doing in MTSS where we're doing a few days of reading and a few days of math and just not focus on reading. We also know that we need to include math. So that's another piece that we need to refine a little bit better and see how that we can do that better.
I think a lot of our focus this year has been on positives, also just recognizing positive behaviors. If you walk through our building, you'll see displays in the hallway. Well, not right now, but next year. You'll see displays in the hallway where students have been recognized just for those positives. It's really easy to focus on the negatives. We all know that as parents and educators. And so we've just been really conscious about picking out the positives and recognizing the students for those good acts of behavior. So, I don't know. That's about it.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our redesign, when we went and presented, we talked about the fact that one of our goals is that we want to make sure that we have post-secondary success outside of high school, so increasing graduation rates and then having post-secondary success. So we went through with that one doing things like giving a voice and a choice for different learning pathways, online, traditional, and PBL. We also have our Transition to Careers program that's been doing fabulous.
We're adding CTE pathways to our lineup, so we're now up to 16, as well as with the student success for seniors doing, we started in the fall, or in the spring, the Stepping Up as You're Stepping Out, mini lessons for seniors who, for real world application going on into the real world, as well as working on an after-school program with Take 'em Home, so being able to provide transportation after hours to help with transportation issues out of Chaparral.
Very good. Nope, that was. Brief updates to those. The redesign process, we're a Gemini 1 school. I'm not sure how many have heard the titles to those, but our district is a Gemini 1. And the Apollo are the newest phase of that coming through. So we're 2 years in, but I wanted to just provide an update of what was going on with that. At this time, I introduced Dr. Watson. I know he's been one of our, as a district and as a leader myself, a person that's helped be a voice of inspiration and wisdom for sure when it comes to topics related to education in the state. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Watson.
Thanks for coming out. We're already in the tornado shelter, so we've anticipated anything that might happen tonight, which is good because it's been happening all across Kansas. So tonight, as I go through kind of how we've gotten in Kansas to where we are today, and then we want to do a lot of Q&A. But I want you to put on the hat of a parent or a grandparent, and if you have no kids, a kid that you're fond of, either a neighbor or a nephew or someone in a classroom that you care deeply about. Okay? So for me, I have a 33-year-old daughter that teaches middle school art, and today was her last day of school for the year. And my son is an animator, 2D. We can have a lengthy discussion about that, which means he makes no money, because the money's in 3D, if you make money. And he's in, right now, he does contract work, but he's in Atlanta right now with some of his buddies that have been working on a piece of work for HBO. It's something that no one should ever have to watch, but they do it, and he's paid by the second. I don't understand his world at all, okay? And he works with people from all over the United States and a little bit from India and Asia. So they're very different worlds, and they're very different kids. But I want you to put on the hat of for the kid that you really, really love, like one of these little darlings, that's really important to you. Because that's what this is all about. It's trying to figure out in a Kansas way how we're going to go about maximizing this success. So I hope you can see this. If not, there are plenty of good seats on the front row. If we were selling this at a concert, Dusty, everyone would have wanted, right? We could have made some money, right? This is the State Board of Ed. Most of you don't have any idea who they are, which is not unusual. They are elected people in the state of Kansas. And District 10 is Jim McNeese. He's your representative. And you can see that down here, kind of sneaking around. The vote of the things I'm going to talk to you about came from Kansas, came from research, came from business, came from higher ed. I want to tell you where they came from. But they put them together in a package that then they voted on. Does that make sense? That the research, both qualitative and quantitative, came from a lot of places. But this group, they're Democrats and Republicans. All right, so we live in Kansas. How many Democrats you think there are? You live in Kansas, right? You live in central Kansas. How many Democrats you think there are? Yeah, they're 2 out of 10, and they're nowhere near here. Right? Okay, so I spent 23 years in McPherson. They would be nowhere near McPherson. Right? So you can guess Janet Waugh, right there, Wyandotte County. Okay? Ann Maw, probably the most liberal. All right, she lives in Shawnee and represents Lawrence. It's about the only 2 places a Democrat can be elected in Kansas. The rest are Republicans ranging from moderate to conservative. The reason I tell you that, they voted 10-0 that this is the way we should go. So that's important. It's not a political issue. It's really trying to be a Kansas issue. So this is the vision. I hope we talk some about Lead the World, because those are metrics. And as I travel throughout Kansas, I said this this morning when we were at ESDAP. So I've been in all 286 school districts multiple times. Just in the past week, I've been in Wichita, Shawnee Mission, Goodland, St. Francis, Atwood, Smith Center, Ulysses. I'll talk a little bit about that. So a lot of places. I can just tell you this. It's very clear. We've got to change the structure of school. Some of your teams were talking about that. The structure is what drives teachers nuts right now, because the kids are so varied. And the structure tries to house them in a structure. And the other is we have to raise the level of rigor of what we're asking kids to do. It's much too low. All right, so we can talk about some of those metrics because we really have raised those. But as you think about your own kid or your own grandchild or that child that's really important to you, think of the success of them when they get to be adults, or if you have adult kids like I do, which never stops, right? If you have adult kids, they never stop. You never end being a parent. I still worry about them, about the next transition for them, or as they have their own families, and all that. What is success? Because that's an interesting comment. What is success? And I'm going to try to tell you what Kansans said it is, and how we go about looking at it. So, going back to the spring of 2015, we did a little survey first, and then I'll tell you about the history. So, I'm a K-State grad. Okay? At a time when we couldn't win a football game. It's just after Dr. Meckel was there, roaming the field, and we were a basketball school. Okay, but in honor of KU, we went to KU and we did a little survey. These are high school students from Kansas that went to the flagship university at KU, and they want to be a teacher. Does that give you the snapshot? Okay. The first 2 questions were given to freshmen from a Kansas high school at KU that want to be a teacher. We asked them, describe your senior year in 1 word. So they could have been from here, from Chaparral, or they could have been from Hayesville, or Cedar Vale, or they could have been anywhere. That's wherever they were, KU. Describe your high school senior year in one word. And the most common word that they gave us was boring. Okay, now this is going to resonate with you when we talk about why are we redesigning. These are not the kids that drop out of school. These are some of our most successful kids going on telling us that high school senior year was boring. So I'm going to ask you, what do we know about successful kids and the senior year? And why would they describe it as boring? Yes, we're counting credits for graduation, right? And successful kids have all their credits early their senior year, and we make them stay. Why? Yeah, the system, but why we don't want them leaving, Josh?
We get funded.
We get funded, right? We get them, I'm just being honest. So you're here, right? The kid's here, and the kid's saying, hey, I got everything I need. What do you, oh, just take some electives, hang out, right? Because we need you full time, because we're counting credits. Now the kid on the other end that's struggling, we're counting credits. And they're behind, woefully, by the senior year. And so we do some odd things with them that we can talk about. That's not, I don't know. But both of those are not designing anything for that kid. Does that make sense? Because we're counting credits. Because the system just says you've got to have 26? It's like
26.
Yeah, so the state says you have to have 21. Almost no one has 21. Almost everyone has more. But that's and you have what's the schedule here at Chaparral?
7 hours.
7 hours. So you could end up with 28 credits. Is that right? 4 years? So they come in, they need government, they need English, and they need some electives, right? Am I right? Okay. Boring. Second question. Hey, what prepared you most in high school to be successful in life? Now here's a qualifier. Does anyone really think a freshman in college is successful? No. Okay, but they think they are. Okay, so we're going to give them credit. So we ask, what in high school most prepared you to be successful? And the answer? Extracurricular activities. Now just think about that. School is boring, and I don't learn anything in the 6 hours I'm there. It's something that happens outside of school. Recently I was in Hutchinson. It was in November, actually. It was buffer week. So what happens in buffer week? Plays and musicals happen all across Kansas, okay, because there's no other sports competing with them. And so it was musical week in Hutchinson. And they were doing Shrek, the musical Shrek. And I had the entire staff there, and Gary Price, superintendent's on the front row. And it's the opening night. It's Friday. They're going to do a Friday show, a Saturday matinee, a Saturday night show of Shrek. And they're trying to get the staff to come, and pump them up. And I saw the director, the drama teacher, and I said, how many kids do you have involved in the production of Shrek? 53. Okay? I said, I bet you were here late last night. I said, how late were you here? She wouldn't answer. Why? She violated policy. Okay? I said, oh, Gary's on the front row. Gary doesn't care. That was a lie, by the way. How late were you here? 12:30. How many kids? 53 involved in the production, right? Actors, the lighting people. How many kids were expected to be here last night? Well, all 53. It was the dress rehearsal we were all on. How many kids stayed till 12:30? And the answer was 53 kids. Why? Why? Because there's two reasons. They were involved, and that teacher was really good at driving them. Does that make sense? These are what Kansas kids are telling us about Kansas high school. Finally, we went to seniors. Hey, you've just gone to the University of Kansas to study to be a teacher, and you've just completed student teaching. Did you learn more from the 4 years at KU, or did you learn more from the student teaching block about how to be a teacher? It's a dull moment, right? Yeah. So kids are telling us that the way we're counting credits, school is boring. I learn most from doing. I'm going to go to the FFA conference here, the state FFA conference. Will be some great stuff. And they learn most from student teaching. So that's research we just did this past year with kids at KU. So we're always continuing to do research to find out what Kansans want. This is the original. We went to 20 different locations in Kansas and held focus groups just like this. Brad and I did. This is in the spring of 2015. And we asked 3 questions. I'm going to go through 2 of them tonight because it informs our work. Here's the first question. If you were to think of a successful 24-year-old, so I ask you to think about your own kids or grandkids or kids, think about them, and now they're successful at age 24. Nothing magical about 24, by the way. We picked that because it may be about the age someone's done with their formal schooling, but it could have been 30. Just think of a young success. You define success. Does that make sense? Write down the characteristics, the skill sets, and the attributes that you think of that make up that successful person. Does that make sense? Largest qualitative study ever done in Kansas. 70% of the responses Kansas gave us, over 2,000 responses, 20 different locations, said what make up success are things you cannot measure on a test. 70% of the responses from Kansans said what make up success are things that are hard to measure. Okay? 23% of the responses were academic skills, and most of those were make sure that they know how to apply those academic skills in context. And then you see some other things. They need to be healthy physically and mentally. They need to have some kind of credential, and they need to be employed, not living in my basement. Right? At 24. So that's what Kansas said. Now, we came back after that. Kansas State helped us analyze this data because it was free form. And we noticed, just like you signed in, when you came in, we asked people, sign in, give us an email address so we can contact you and tell us, are you a parent, are you a board member, are you a business leader? And we noticed that as people described who they were, they didn't describe that they were in business very much. They described themselves as a parent, or a board member, or a teacher, or higher ed. And then we had a few business people, which we may have had a lot, but they just didn't describe themselves as that. I called Mike O'Neill, who was president of the Kansas Chamber at the time, and said, can we go back out and engage chambers of commerce and just get business people to come in, and we're going to do the same questions. Okay? So Brad and I went back out, and then we met with business leaders. So now we've got Cargill, Cerner, Spirit, Black & Veatch, Goodyear, and mom and pop shops. We got people that have 2 employees to over 20,000 employees. We asked the same question. Business leaders told us this. 81% of the business responses said, when we think of someone that's successful and we describe that person, 81% of the responses were things not easily measured on a test. In Kansas were very clear that they said, just balance this out. Don't just test kids on one day, test them, prep them, at the exclusion of these other skills. Make sure it's balanced. Okay? That was 3 years ago when we went out. And so I want to now get into the second question. First question made up the vision. Second question is where we really made up the design. Second question was, well, of that person you just described, what's K-12's role in developing that person? And how would we do it? What's our role, if any? This may be just a parent role, right? And how would we do it? Third question was, what's higher ed's role? Could we get that off to higher ed? I'm not even going to go into that tonight. Here were the responses of what Kansas said, largest qualitative study. We've now combined the businesses and the original into this. They said, first of all, school climate is not where it needs to be. And I'm just going to give you a snippet of this. They said that a kid that wants to be a welder is not seen as success in Kansas schools compared to the kid that wants to go to pharmacy at KU. One is seen as a less person, and that you should stop doing that. that every kid that has a plan after high school should be honored and rewarded. I'm going to stop there because I was out at Ulysses Sunday for their graduation. Ulysses had 103 graduates in their class, so you can get an idea. And I was there to give a brief talk. They did not have a valedictorian and salutatorian. Did you? Or have you had graduation? Okay, you had a vow and sal. Most Kansas schools still have vows and sals, right? They had at some point done away with those. But what they did is that they decided to honor their 4.0 kids, which would have been your vows and sals. They had 4 4.0s, and one person had a 4.0 until a week ago when she lost it by getting a B on a final. So that's pretty close to 5, right? They were on the front row, they stood up, they were being recognized. 4 girls, all Caucasian. Okay? And Anthony and Harper, they would have spoken at graduation, right? And we do that, why? I'm asking you questions like this. These are dumb questions, right? Why do we have the 4.0, the vowels and sals speak?
Because we always have.
Well, that's true. And if you change that, you better be ready for the parent whose kid is going to be the vowel and sal that year. We do it because those are the kids that we've said are the most successful, right? They're the most successful in school. We want them to speak. They're the valedictorian and salutatorian. And it's 100-year history of doing that, right? So they stand up, great applause. Then Ulysses decided we're going to have 21 kids come up that are graduating today from Ulysses High School, but they also have certifications. They also have an associate degree already from Seward County, and in one case, they have a baccalaureate degree from Harvard. Okay? And there's 21 of those kids. 19 of those 21 are Hispanic. One of those was Karen Rodriguez. Karen graduated Sunday from Ulysses High School. With her graduation on Wednesday, so a week ago, she graduated from Seward County, OSHA certified, CNA certified, CMA certified, phlebotomy certified, radiology tech certified, and an associate degree in medical studies. She wants to be a nurse. You know why she didn't graduate with an associate degree in nursing? Tell me why. She's not 19. You have to be 19. She has to wait about 8 months until she turns 19. Then she will become an RN. She never would have been honored in the majority of Kansas graduation ceremonies. She was not an honor graduate. She was not valedictorian. She was not salutatorian. I just want to ask you, was Karen Rodriguez successful? I thought so. So it was Braxton Morrill, who graduated from Harvard, the only kid in the history of Harvard ever to graduate from Harvard while still in high school. They'll never do it again. They changed the rules. You got to be 21. They won't do it again. Braxton was not valedictorian or salutatorian. He's been accepted into Columbia and Harvard Law School next year. Is Braxton successful? So are the 4.0 kids. Am I making sense? There are many ways we can think about this as we go through it. Kansas said, honor all of those kids. Because by doing that, you're finding their passions. All right? All of those kids are successful in their different ways. We need a career plan earlier. We need to start helping kids think of what their passion is. So I was in Goodland a week and a half ago. I grabbed 2 kids that were seniors. I said, have you thought about next year? This is common. I could do it here. And they said, what do you think? How did they answer that question? Have you thought about next year? They said, I'm going, and I always interrupt. I don't care where you're going. I'm going to study. I don't even care what you're going to study. I want to know what you're passionate about doing. Because you may decide to study many different things, but if you want to help people, and you could be a nurse, you could be a minister, you could be in social work, you could be a teacher, but you're driven by helping people. That's what you're driven by. Everyone would say, well, I'm going to KU. Not because they have a football team, you're not. So why are you going to get it? Start asking kids early to start thinking about what they are. Engage the family better. We don't do that very well. We talk to you like I'm talking to you tonight. We're talking about engaging. Really engaging. How should school look? How should it be run? When should we go to school? The model we're in right now was established at the turn of the century in 1900. That's why we take summers off. That's why we start school at 8 and get out at 3. It's all for agriculture. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But I'd like to know what Anthony and Harper thinks about that. Really think about that. Every community. So engage our family differently. Community. Engage our community different. In the same conversation like we're doing tonight, hopefully. Engagement. Parent-teacher conferences at high schools all across Kansas have been doing this in terms of parents coming. And so teachers are going, man, we've got donuts and no one comes and I'm eating them all and getting fat. So good. And the parents I see are the parents I need to see. And we've got some schools that have totally changed how conferences are run. I'll give you Emporia as an example. Went from below 30% participation to almost 90% participation in 1 year by simply changing the format. So, individualize the instruction. We call that personalized learning. Came out what Kansans said. Give real-world instruction. Have them doing real-world work. We can give you some examples of this. We're just working with some kids from farm to plate, where we've got some schools that are raising crops, or they eat them in the cafeteria. They've got cattle. They've got pigs. They've got chickens, and they're eating all that. They're taking care of it. They've got their accounting kids running it as a business. Real world instruction. Project-based learning goes along with that. Early childhood, that every kid ought to come to kindergarten ready to learn, but not necessarily in a school sponsored by the state of Kansas. Could be at the Catholic Church. Could be at a private daycare. Could be at home, and probably should be. Don't care, but kids are coming to kindergarten not ready for kindergarten. Everywhere. We were just talking about, the challenges of early childhood kids. And then a whole host of other things that were less noticed. So I'm going to give you kind of the snapshot. They said we want quality pre-K. Changes need to be made in this culture. We want more. We want new roles for counselors and social workers. We want some, and we want them working with kids. We don't want them running master schedules. We need better collaboration between communities and schools and businesses. We need community service. Kansas said, give back to your community. And that last one, which is the really hard one, reorganize schools around the kid and the family. Don't plug them into a system. Reorganize around. That's really hard. It's really hard to do. Easy to say, it's really hard. So, layperson. What did Kansas say success was? I'm giving you, the researchers hate when I do this. Because I'm combining it and I'm looking at it and saying, I'm giving it to you in layperson's, not in the research. Happy? Would you take that? The kid you're thinking about, they get up to be an adult, they describe themselves as happy. It's one of the things I ask my son. Are you having a good time in Atlanta? How good? How good a time? You won't have too good a time. Fulfilled. They have a sense of fulfillment. They give back to their community and they are in the service of others. That, I think, is uniquely a Kansas thing, and it came out loud and clear everywhere we went. That Kansas said, we want people that give back to others that are less fortunate in our community. And yes, I know this is hard to read, they have to have skills and attributes that allow you to at least earn a living, we said, in the middle class. That they can raise a family and earn a living in our state. That's really hard to get to those things. Now, that's the qualitative research, right? What Kansans said. Let's just say very briefly what some of the quantitative research says on what we need. This is Georgetown Policy Institute data. for Kansas, verified by the Kansas Chamber of Commerce. Now I'm going to give you the specific. 71% of the kids that just graduated from Chaparral High School and graduated from Independence High School, and graduated from Hiawatha High School in the class of 19, 71% of the job market that they are entering in our state. Now this varies a little bit by region. 71% of the job market in our state require them to have a high school diploma and some other piece of paper. So think about that. High school diploma and some other piece of paper. That's those 21 kids we were honoring at Ulysses on Sunday. They have another piece of paper. By the way, 2 kids weren't honored at all in that ceremony. I got to meet them. They are probably today, because they graduated, they started an internship at John Deere in Ulysses. Paid for, they have an internship. They have schooling at John Deere School for 2 years, paid for by John Deere. There's no expense, and they will go back to work in Ulysses at John Deere at the end of those 2 years. $60,000 equivalent work. Is that success? I don't know. Right? We got to find it. Is that success? But all I know is that they were not recognized at all in that ceremony. I think they are too. I think they are. They're following what they want to do. They're going to live in Ulysses. They'll run for the school board. They'll be highly successful. I really do think that. They're not going to leave. They want to stay in southwest Kansas. But they have some, they're going to have something else. Does that make sense? Here's the dirty secret. Half of this market does not require a baccalaureate degree. Half of it does. So yeah, we need engineers, and we need teachers, and we need doctors, and we need those. Half of the market is there. This is 36% of the market in Kansas. 35% are welders, plumbers, electricians, linemen, farmers, we go on and on. Does that make sense? Let's stop for a second. Go back to organizing school. We have 26 credits to graduate. Tell me what you have to take at Chaparral High School to graduate in the class of 2019 of the 26 credits. I know. Not because I've studied your guide, because it's the same everywhere. I'm going to be pretty close. 4 years of English. 3 years of math. 3 years of science. 3 years of social studies. A fine arts credit. Maybe a financial literacy. That's where you can trick me. Do you have a financial literacy credit? Okay, some people do. And then electives totaling 26. The kid at Ulysses that's going to go to the John Deere shop, Braxton Morale, who just graduated from Harvard, Karen Rodriguez, who's a nurse, and whenever she turns 19 and has all those certificates, all took the exact same English class when they were a sophomore. Every one of them studied Romeo and Juliet. They did, because it's required at Ulysses. We don't require it. Here's the question. Should it be that way? Guess who gets to make that decision? The community of Anthony and Harper. They're your kids. These are your kids. We don't make that. We just say, ask yourself, when you think about success, is that curriculum hampering anyone? Because you know what that curriculum is? It's made to send everyone here. It's made to create Braxtons. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're planning to go here. But if you're not, is that the best way we should do it? We just ask the question. Here's the data. State of Kansas, 5-year, here's high school graduation. We're looking 2 years in arrear, and I'll tell you why. This is the years 2012 to 16. July 1, that chart will go to 2013, 2017. We're always 2 years in arrears, and I'll tell you why. So, July 1, we're going to take a snapshot of the class of 2017. Remember them? Hadn't seen that long ago. They were roaming the halls. And we're going to ask this question. Did you graduate high school? And did you get a second piece of paper? Or are you still going to school trying to get it? And if the answer to those two questions is yes, they show up in this little blue we call effective rate. 2 years out of high school? Did you graduate high school, get another piece of paper, or are you still going to school trying to get it? That's it. Because we need 71%, Kansas has 46. Now, part of my time spent with businesses all across the state. And there's a reason that my rear's a little bit slimmer than it used to be, because it gets chewed on a lot by businesses. All right, saying, you got to move this towards 71% as fast as you can move it. We need in Harper, we need better plumbers, we need HVAC people, we need mechanics, we need police officers, right? We need this, what we call the skilled labor. And yes, Cerner, Cliff, we need engineers, we need computer scientists, and we need lots of them, Randy. And guess what? Maybe we should have some teachers. Right? Does that make sense? So we need all of it. We're at 86%, 14% of Kansas high school kids never graduate. 14%. By the way, we're in the top 10 in the country. We're good. This is my state just like it is yours. I was born here. I've never left here, other than to go to the Ozarks and go to Silver Dollar City. I just don't. I grew up in southeast Kansas, so that 14% is not acceptable. Because guess what? We know. Dusty and I were talking about some stuff. Here's what we know. If you drop out of a Kansas high school, you know what the odds are you'll ever live in the middle class in Kansas? 8%. So it reminds me of that Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar. There's a quote from there. So I got a chance. Yes, you've got a chance. Somebody's going to beat the odds. But it's an 8% odds. Then you know what? You know what that means for the rest of us? No one's going to pay my Social Security. That kid's not going to pay it. That kid's showing up at the emergency room because he or she doesn't have any insurance. It's driving mine up. Does that make sense? So that's why I think we have to have a response to that. So we're trying to move this to 71. We're trying to move this to 95. 95, 71. And we're making progress. But it's really hard. Because if it was easy, we would have already done this. And by the way, I used to be a high school principal. So the reason we don't just go 95, we don't look at this 2 years out is, I know how to get to 95% high school graduation. You just graduate. It's a blue light special today. Everyone gets to graduate, and they have no skill, right? That's not, no. Can't do that. We got to raise the rigor. Remember I said that? We got to raise it. Our kids going to college aren't ready. Our kids going to be electricians aren't ready. So we're trying to do 5 things in combination. This came out of the vision. The state board has some goals. You saw just some of that. And since this time, remember we asked what make up success? We've been out asking people like you, here's everything that Kansans said make up success. And we put them into 3 categories: intrapersonal, interpersonal, cognitive. But here's what they said. Since then, we've been going back out and asking. We've got over 7,400 Kansans responses since the original research on this. And we simply asked them, if you had to pick one of these, remember your own kid, your own grandkid, if you had to pick one of these and said, by the way, they're all good. That's what Kansas said. So, organization, better have that. Initiative, better have that. Problem solving, better have that. They're all good. If you only had to pick one, which one would you pick? 7,400 Kansans said this. So it's a wordle, which means the bigger the word, the more responses. Perseverance, number 1. Self-regulation, integrity, empathy, problem solving. You can see the ones that jump out. 7,400 Kansans. If you had to pick one, which one are you going to pick for your own kid, your own grandkid, or the kid that's really special to you? Now, we didn't run this tonight for just the sake of time. 4 people of the 7,400 chose content, technical knowledge as the most important. So it is important, but it must not be the most important to Kansas. How about businesses? Nationwide. skills do businesses say are lacking in high school graduates? And then we'll go to Cali County graduates. And then we'll go to Washburn graduates. Ready? High school graduates lack these. This is the United States Chamber of Commerce. If you're a business person, you see that? I was talking to Sid Weens at Weens Construction today. He said, Randy, you're spot on. So first of all, the people I hire can make a great living, but they don't have the skill set. I can teach them about anything I want to, but they got to show, it's these things that they don't have. These are high school grads. How about 2 years? Graduate from 2-year college. This is what they lack. This is the United States Chamber of Commerce. These are the business leaders across the United States. Because we want to know, are Kansans just wacky? Are we just silly? How about, okay, but if you graduate from Washburn or Wichita State, you got better skills, right? Now I'm gonna, for the educators in the room, I'm going to share something that's going to hurt. Shared with me last week. Have you ever heard of Enterprise KC? Enterprise KC is a business alliance in Kansas City, Kansas, and Missouri, made up of what's called the enterprise businesses in that region. That is Cerner, Hallmark, J.R. Dunn, UMB Bank, Sprint, and I'm going to miss some. Okay, you get the flavor. Here's what they say. We have a severe workforce shortage. We have little awareness of the shortage problem or the availability of assets. We have an academic supply chain not equipped to meet this demand. This is last week. All right, shared to me by the KC Alliance. Curriculum is antiquated in K-12. Lack of connection between academia and their customers. You're not listening to us of what we need. You keep turning out these kids that can't do the skills of what we need. And I got beat up, so let's see some more. Graduates are not workforce ready. They lack real world experience, they lack soft skills. Curriculum is antiquated, taught by teachers and professors that don't know what the real world looks like. They've never been in it. I'm just giving the report. Academia struggle to build relationships with their customers. They're saying that's us. Fail to leverage industry experts. We're willing to come in and help you. We don't even get asked. How about this? You're not moving fast enough to change. We need this now. You need to train students differently. Experiential learning. That's real world project based. Industry is willing to partner with you, but we're about to go it alone if you don't change. We're going to build our own schools and our own universities, and we're going to produce our own people, from worker bees to engineers. This is from college graduates to certificate people. Just some more things here. We need real-world learning would equip both student readiness and student interest. We're agile in business, but you're standardized. Your goal is to stay over a large population and do things the same way over and over and over again. And we need you to be more agile. I'm going to share with you a video that Kate News ran. It is simply going to show you some models. We'll talk on the back side, and I really want to engage you. So we'll hope this works.
Well, how many times have you heard kids ask, why do I have to learn this? Or school is boring.
Never happened.
Kansas schools are taking education in a different direction. Kate News investigator Pilar Pedraza explains.
Let's face it, students from a century ago would easily recognize and fit into most schools in the country today. The Kansas State Department of Education is working to change that with a massive redesigned program called Kansans Can, kicked off a couple of years ago. But we found some schools are well ahead of that redesign curve, already matching how they teach to what students need to know when they graduate. You like your bag?
Everything's at 5 degrees.
Two vanilla iced coffees.
This is the modern face of education in Kansas. Doesn't exactly look like your parents' classroom now, does it?
2 shots of espresso. The thing about the coffee shop is it's real life experience.
And this isn't your normal coffee shop. Stomping Grounds at Hayesville's Campus High is student-run, student-operated, and student-served.
I am very hands-off at the beginning, so I let them fail. Like if something is out of stock, I don't refill it. I let the kids realize that's out of stock and they refill it. If someone doesn't show up, I am not the one to scold them. The managers talk to them.
Among the first of several student businesses teaching Kansas kids about the real world, the Stomping Ground started in 2014 with an idea.
We realized that we were dealing in more like hypotheticals in business, and we were like, man, we are not getting kids any actual real-world experience.
Now, the teachers may have come up with the idea, but the students ran with it,
Did you guys make that left one today?
writing the business plan,
Can I get a small caramel iced coffee?
getting a loan from the school board,
What's the name on it?
and now not just operating the store, but doing the accounts and deciding what happens with profits. And they're not alone. Complete high school students in Mays spend several hours a week at the Reflection Ridge Retirement.
These are alternative schools that have dropped out of Mays High School and Mays South.
Running a general store for the residents.
It's definitely not normal.
They're learning not only math skills, but communication skills, how to connect with people who aren't like you.
Everybody sees the world differently throughout their own eyes.
While over at Andover High School, geometry sure has a new sound to it.
Just the idea of, you know, having a math class and then applying that to the real world, I think would be beneficial.
There, the technical education teacher teamed up with a math teacher.
So they're 60 inches tall.
Whoa.
Now, the kids are using geometry to build a new understanding of how the world works.
Perseverance. One thing we talk about as teachers is how do we teach these kids to have that grit and perseverance to, you know, for lack of better words, get through the class.
The product of their labor, something more than a score on a sheet of math problems.
It helps you with your future. It helps you learn the different skills that you need.
These students are also learning what the State Department of Education calls soft skills. Things like time management, communication, community responsibility.
To pay back our bank loan, we give out about $10,000 of student scholarships, and then we also give back to local and school rate events.
Things the business community, universities, and colleges all told Kansas educators high school graduates are lacking. And in an era when the state says it will need 71% of workers to have some sort of post-high school training, a training certification, associate's, bachelor's, or higher degree, the biggest payoff may be in students' returned excitement for learning.
Amazing way to start my day, not just like, oh, I have to go to school, I get to go to the coffee shop.
There's not a question about, you know, why am I doing this? In 1 hour, we're in there doing this, and then you're like, okay, well, now you know how to use this, and we're going to actually apply it now.
Everything I would be able to take after high school and apply it to my adulthood. Well, when I'm in there, I don't really feel like I'm in school.
Every student I spoke with said these programs have made them reevaluate their plans after high school, and many are now thinking seriously about post-high school training where they weren't before. These programs are so successful, most schools are looking at ways to expand them. At Hayesville's Campus High, the year after Stomping Grounds opened for business, Valley State Bank moved in, providing banking internships for students right in the school. They've also now got a broadcasting company and expect soon to open a t-shirt design and printing business. While at Andover, they've begun selling to geometry students construction projects. In the studio, Pilar Pedraza, Cake News on your side, investigates.
So let me give you a little bit more information. It isn't just going to build those dog houses, they also build shed. It's not, they're in math class, all right? And they immediately go from math class, they go build. And then when they see you don't understand what you're doing here and you're screwing it up, I take you back into the classroom and now we're having a lesson. Does that make sense? Same thing. So the coffee shop, you had to have a business plan. The school board didn't give them the money. I love this. They loaned them the money with interest. They were rejected twice because their business plan was so bad. They now run a bank right next door. But they're also in doing classwork and then going to apply it. What Hayesville is morphing into is they're going to have the actual making the coffee and selling it. Guess who's going to be doing that in the future? Disabled kids. Managed by other kids. Does that make sense? Because they're thinking about everyone and what's the skill set's going to be necessary. So it's not, you're seeing the kind of the activity part of it. There's a whole classroom part of this. But they're applying it immediately as they do it. Just one example. Josh mentioned, we named this after the Kennedy's challenge to go land a man on the moon, which by the way, for us old people, happened 50 years ago in July this year. All right, when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. So we named our first round Mercury, then Gemini, and now we're phasing into Apollo. We have 66 school districts, about 170 some schools across Kansas, and we're at all different stages. And guess what? They all look different. And I hope that they always do. Because Stockton should not look the same as Hillsborough. Two entirely different cultures and communities. In fact, it's so interesting in Kansas. It's probably true of Anthony and Harper, but Marion and Hillsborough. I spent my life in McPherson, our adult life. That's where our kids would call home. Like, they're just totally different. They were settled under totally different circumstances. They're right next to each other, right? So we have that in Kansas. And so that's why we have to go engage the community. What do you want? What do you want from your kids? Because whatever you want, let's go design that, right? Let's go make that happen for your kids. Here are the pillars then that we took of all the research. So what did higher ed say? What's the qualitative research? What's the quantitative research? What does it say? Focus on those skills like perseverance and grit. And you've got to practice it because kids don't have it. And guess who doesn't have it? Oh, I'm going to tell you where the pushback is coming from. Do you know who really doesn't want to struggle? Which kids? 286 school districts. I'm talking about my own kids. Who doesn't really want to struggle? 4.0 kids. They're good at playing school. We need, all right, some kids struggle from the day they enter school. It's hard. We've got to do these skills not once, not as an add-on, but as you saw it, every single day, right? By the way, those kids never show up late to the coffee shop. They never show up late to build the house. They don't show up late to do a drama production. They don't show up late to an FFA where they've got to be today. We've got a school in Chase County. Today, school's out. Guess what the kids are doing? 4th and 5th graders. We got to go feed the pigs. And we got a couple head of cattle. Why? Because they're still there and school's out. We still got to take care of them. We got crops that we're going to eat next year. You got to personalize the path for every kid. Braxton graduated from Harvard. He thanks everyone. He wanted to come with me today. He did. Brady, there's lots of me. Braxton, there's not. Okay? But I'm glad you think that. Okay? You got to tell people, we can do this everywhere. Okay? No, Harvard won't do it again, Braxton. We broke the mold. But you saw how we were personalizing that path. This is another one. We're doing it to engage your family and ask them, what do you want? How do you want this to be? And then this real world project based. So these are just the kind of the pillars of how we're going to look at it. Doug and I came tonight. He volunteered to come with me. Many of you know Doug. He works for the Kansas Association of School Boards. We're deeply committed to how can we help you do what you want to do. So if we can assist you, if we can coach you, if we can encourage you, if we can do some rules and regs to get out of your way that are impeding upon that, we should. I've looked at your data. It's not good. It's not good in Kansas. Okay? And you know that. So is it, think back. I'm talking about your kid, your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, and I want them to be able to come back to this community and have a vibrant career, or stay in Kansas and do it somewhere else, if that's what they choose. And yes, if they choose to leave, I guess that's okay too. But I want them to stay, like we did, or come back if they're somewhere. So, way over time, Josh. You know, you bring me in, and all I have to do is go to bed somewhere tonight. You know, there's probably tornadoes outside, so maybe we can keep you. Doug and I would love to engage some questions. Dusty, I know you have some specifically about some outcomes, and I'm happy to engage you in the data or the questions of what we have and what we don't have. We started the redesign effort in the spring of 17. So those early schools just did their launch this year. So we've got limited data. but we've got some initial, and we've got different designs going on. So Liberal's design looks much different than Coffeyville's, for example. Okay. What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? It's your community. It's a proud community. I coached a basketball game here a long time ago, and I was at Andover. Triple overtime. We beat you. It was an ugly game. It was an ugly game on both sides. We stopped and got chicken somewhere. Is there a chicken place? Got boxes of chicken to eat on the bus, because, you know, if you're in Andover, you thought this was the longest trip in the history of mankind to come to Chaparral. I think about that, you know, when St. Francis is traveling halfway across the world. He goes, can I hit some of them?
Yeah.
So, let's talk about this. What about test scores? How does this fit into test scores? We need to raise academic achievement. I want to say this about state assessments. If the public looks at state assessments, and I say to you, if you're a non-educator in the room, a student in 3rd grade is not proficient in reading. I just say that statement. Can you tell me what that means to you? What does that kind of mean in your lay person vernacular? Because I can tell you what Kansans kind of tell us, but they don't read. Yeah. So Kansans tend to associate I'm not proficient with I'm illiterate. That is not true. The level that we're asking people to be at, which we call 3 and 4, is the level that you'll need to be at to go to the John Deere School, to go to the Wind Energy School at Cloud County, to go to Harvard. It's that level. They can read, they can't read at that level. So we just need to understand that. But we're what? 30% of Kansas kids cannot read to go to that post-secondary experience by the time we get to 3rd grade, which is the first time we assess it. Now, what are we going to do about that? By the way, the first thing you want to do if you're an educator is scream at the parents. Right? Okay. That worked. Okay, so, right, parents are doing the best. We're all doing the best job we can. How many have more than one kid of your own? Yeah. The first one, you remember that? You're making it up. You went and got the Dr. Spock book, and you're, you know, looking at your spouse going, okay, let's make this up, right? You parent like you were parenting, or you don't. So, we've got to raise the test scores, but we don't raise the test scores by simply focusing on the test itself at the exclusion of other things. Does that make sense? We've got to do repetition over and over. And then you've got to bring kids in, and you've got to have intensive sessions to teach them, and then you've got to go apply it. You've got to apply it, or you don't get long-term learning. Does that make sense? If I just simply learn, if you're a kindergarten teacher, no, I got to sometime read can, and I got to put it in a sentence, and I got to write it. So the minute I can say, I'm going to can and I'm writing. Does that make sense? And I'm practicing that skill. And then when I see, oh, you're lacking this, I'm pulling you and we're doing a 15-minute intense lesson. And then I'm going right back to applying it. Does that make sense? That's the balance you've got to do. And that's impossible to do if you've got 25 kids coming into kindergarten, some have a 300-word vocabulary and some are reading at 2nd grade, and you're saying, Josh, I don't need 25, lower this down to 12. And he says, school board goes, we don't have that money. And so give me a pair, give me some help. But I heard tonight, maybe you're thinking about, oh, we can blend those, right? We can blend some kids, and we can mix and match throughout the day so that we can better meet their needs. It's just a different way of thinking. The one-room schoolhouse, by the way, did this all the time. We left the one-room schoolhouse, but it did it all the time. The 8th graders did not beat up the 1st graders. We think that today, but they didn't do that back in 1890. So we don't have any. Remember, our Mercury and Gemini just ended their 1st year. Some of our Gemini ones. So we don't have longitudinal data. We haven't even looked at the state assessment scores yet. But the early results, the interim results,